I give the call to the member for Fremantle.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The death on Monday, the member for Dunkley, Peter Murphy, came as a shock. Last Tuesday, she stood up just there and asked a question of the Prime Minister, 1 p.m. to another, as the member for Lily observed earlier today. And 1 week and 1 day later, she's not with us anymore. And suddenly this place has had subtracted from it a person whose energetic contribution, whose life force was incandescent. It was absolutely a force for good, and when Peter was in full flight, you couldn't look away. Of course, our loss as a community in this place is nothing compared to the loss for Rod and for Peter's family and close friends. And I express my deepest condolence to them at this time. And I know there will be enormous heartache in Peter's beloved local community that she fought so hard to represent and for whom she worked so hard in this place right to the very end. Deputy Speaker, I've not known Peter for a long time, and I wouldn't say that I knew her very well, but it was in Peter's nature that you really got a lot from her without having to try hard at all, because she was so engaging and caring and generous, because she was so smart and funny and down to earth. Peter Murphy was someone who consistently stood up and spoke up in the courtroom, in this chamber, in the Labor caucus and in the public domain, and always with great empathy and compassion. Most of all for me, what I found remarkable was Peter's mastery of the great gift of being herself. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing, especially in our line of work. But Peter was always authentic and real. Her confidence was built on a foundation of humility. She could be deadly serious about what mattered, but she was just as often irreverent and hilarious. She really did spend a lot of her time thinking about other people, about her constituents in Dunkley, her colleagues and their kids, about people who struggle against entrenched disadvantage in this country, and people affected by the terrible cancer that she took on with such incredible forbearance and style. Deputy Speaker, I had the privilege in the middle of last year of doing a leadership development course with Peter and a number of colleagues through the work of the McKinnon Foundation. A member for Barowra was part of that. And it involved an in-residence week of work together in New South Wales. As that experience was a bit like a grown-up school camp, it inevitably brings you closer. Peter's husband, Rod Glover, was one of the principal designers and conveners of the program, which was to our enormous benefit, because there are few people in Australia with Rod's expertise, experience and deep humanity when it comes to public policy and government and how important those things are. And characteristic of her approach to life, Peter was not going to be coy about the challenge of being in a course in which Rod was effectively one of the teachers. By the end of the course, when we were doing some final sessions by Zoom, Peter was in New York as a parliamentary representative to the United Nations General Assembly. And I remember one occasion when Peter and Rod had stayed up into the wee hours of the morning to be part of a McKinnon discussion, each from their own device, each in separate rooms in the same apartment in New York. We were only 10 minutes into the session when Peter interrupted the fairly serious proceedings to say, "Rod, do you reckon you could close your door so I don't have to deal with the echo from down the hall?" Clearly, among the many things that made Peter and Rod best friends and life partners was the fact that they have in common the highest quality of commitment to excellence in public service, governance and democracy. And I tell you what, the world needs more of that, now more than ever. In Peter's case, that commitment in her work as a parliamentarian meant seeking outcomes that were defined by fairness and shared well-being and sustainability. But it also meant practising politics in a way that was defined by a sense of duty and honour, and conducted in a way that was guided by principle and respect. Peter absolutely lived that approach all day, every day. And what's more, she was an agent of cooperation and collegiality, a person who brought people into the conversation together and shaped that conversation so that we could agree more often and so that we could disagree better. The Prime Minister used the term happy warrior this morning, which I think says a lot, and many others in this debate have acknowledged that aspect of Peta, which wasn't just her natural ability, but also her concerted focus and work ethic. Deputy Speaker, I wish I'd had the chance to have a hit of squash with Peta. I love the game of squash. I love sport. And I know the particular way in which people's nature can be expressed through the skill and craft and effort and creativity of the games they've applied themselves to and loved for a long time. I know that Peta would have taught me some lessons on the squash court, from what others have said, quite probably hard lessons. And there were plenty of areas in which you could learn a lot from Peta Murphy. Indeed, Deputy Speaker, there is an opportunity for all of us in reflecting on what was special about Peta to carry those qualities forward in our lives and our work here together. It can never hurt to remember that time is short, that we're privileged to serve our communities and our country in this place, and there's no limit on the capacity of thoughtfulness, fierce principle and generosity of spirit to make a difference. Vale, Peta Murphy.